This is a problem. It's been almost a year now, and this is the paying range you've been getting in Africa. It's not even funny anymore because for some reason, no one wants to accept rank matches whatsoever. My friend literally begs people online to accept his matches.
Please accept I haven't played in a long time is actually heartbreaking. I'm laughing because it's so ridiculous that you pay for a full price game and my man has to open up the voice chat on the controller and say please play with me in an online game when you are connected to the rest of the world. This situation is actually insane. It's pretty insane when you consider the fact that African players were charged the exact same amount of money as we are, and our one barely worked when it came out, and their one may as well be going off of a bowl of cereal. It literally may as well be powered by nothing. NRS, if you are listening, this is a golden opportunity, especially because you are active on Twitter now and you've got a year 2 panel coming up, which we're going to discuss in a little bit. And props to you for being active on Twitter. I want the MK community to get the game that they deserve, so you being active is a good thing. But this is a golden opportunity to show how inclusive you are and actually help these guys out. You could have charged them a fraction of the game's overall cost and told them you won't have the facilities that the rest of the world does and we're not going to support you, so at least they know what they're getting themselves into. But you took their money and then hung them out to dry.
See, this really sucks, considering buying a game for about $100 and once done with the story mode, it's basically an online game. I'm not a big fan of invasions, and the only way to enjoy this game is by playing online, and yet we still get our matches being declined. See, I really love this game. I really love this game. I play on both console and PC. I've got almost 2,000 hours on just console. That's 80 days of my life on just a single game. And it's not even been a year.
80 days on a single game in accumulative hours, and it ain't even been out for a year is absolutely insane. Dedication that you rarely see these days. For context, he has played MK1 more than my entire playthrough of MKX, MK11, and MK1 put together. And it's actually quite possible that he's played it more with my Tekken 7 and Tekken 8 playthroughs combined on top of that. If he hasn't, it's extremely close. Bear in mind, he said that's only on console, so he probably has. This tells me that this guy and his scene are extremely dedicated to Mortal Kombat 1. My feelings towards Mortal Kombat 1 aside, that is seriously impressive. If I could fit a hat over my hair, I'd have to take my hat off and bow to this guy. You must be an absolute beast at the game. I'm assuming other members of your scene have this many hours on the game, maybe more. So Mortal Kombat must be a really big deal in some parts of Africa, or maybe the whole of Africa, I don't know. Insane numbers. And like I said, he said it's only on console. Just console. Absolute madness as far as I'm concerned. This guy has more time on Mortal Kombat 1 than almost all of my time on Pokemon games, from Yellow to whatever the hell that region was in Hawaii. I can't remember what the name was. I think it was Sun and Moon. That region didn't even have an Elite Four. Shambolic. Anyway, we'll talk about Pokemon another day.
I hosted an online tournament, and believe me when I say it was an absolute disaster.
This is Eternal.
Oh, this
Yeah.
is looking rough.
Yeah,
Looking rough.
actually,
I don't know how to play. Yeah, this is good example.
yeah, you can see the thing over here on the
Yeah,
screen.
exactly.
If there was ever a time to apply the word shambolic to something, now would be the time. I've given MK an extremely hard time for its low tournament numbers, and you have the great continent of Africa propping up your game, and this is what they get. I believe these are Ghanaian players, but I've spoken to people all over Africa since my last video because I did a video calling out NRS to support these guys, and since then African players have reached out to me on Twitter, on Instagram, through the YouTube comment section, so I know MK is very popular over there. And last time I checked, Africa is the second biggest continent on Earth, only second to Asia. It literally covers 1/5 of the entire land surface of the Earth. That is an enormous market that you guys are not capitalizing on. You would think, being the second largest continent and being really invested in your game, you'll be paying them more attention. It's like you're giving the second largest market on the planet that loves your game the middle finger, especially when there's no acknowledgement online. Just from a business standpoint, how does this even make sense? If I was NRS, I'd be giving African players their very own pro tour. Africa's big enough that you don't even need to come out of Africa to do the pro tour. do a tournament in Uganda, do one in Ghana, do one in Nigeria, and so on. Missed opportunity if you ask me.
You have pro players dropping combos costing them the game due to high ping and input lags.
Oh my goodness, this is tight.
Oh,
What?
What?
Why? Oh, I should have.
The ball didn't work.
And despite that tomfoolery, they are still playing your game. Still supporting scenes in Africa via online tournaments. I'd have thrown the game out the window at that point. I live over in the UK and I already had enough of MK1's bullshit. And I had enough reason to throw out the window. And these guys are still supporting you even though you won't even acknowledge that they exist.
Each player averaged 250 to 300 ms ping, and the commentators weren't having it.
So, boys.
Not to cut you, Zeke. As you can see on our screen, we are seeing the ping 250, 270, 300 between the players. As you can see on the screen. And surprisingly, we are all in Ghana.
Yeah. We are on the same city in Ghana. Most of
We
us
are in
are
the same city in Ghana, yeah.
Yeah.
They're in the same damn city and the game looks like it's being powered by mashed potatoes. For a company that is in bed with consultant agencies like Sweet Baby Inc., you'd think this would be a golden opportunity to get all that diversity and inclusivity stuff going and help the black players, you know, the people that you pander to over here and we don't want it. These guys actually want your help. They want your attention. The black players. You do all of this pandering over here for things that we never ask for. And you have black people telling you, stop doing this, stop doing that. Can you relax? And we don't want this. And then you have African players literally tweeting at you, asking other content creators, please say something about this. And you guys pay them no attention. Not even an acknowledgement. African players buying this game in abundance. Buying a game at full price and your radio silent. Just from a PR perspective, this seems like a golden opportunity. If Sweet Baby Inc. or NRS focus their efforts on players out there and focus their efforts on the African region, I ain't gonna complain. After all of the damage that SBI has done to games and to their own reputations in the West, you'd think this would be a golden opportunity to jump at, to restore some faith. Because who's gonna argue with them? Who's gonna argue that SBI invested resources and pushed NRS to go and help the African nations? Who is going to argue with NRS putting their resources into helping African players so they can actually play the game? Nobody in their right mind would do that. But you've essentially scammed African players out of the full playing experience, and almost a year on, you've done nothing about it. As far as I'm concerned, I know I'm sounding harsh right now, but that is unacceptable. Now, I've had players reach out to me to amplify this situation, to shine a light on it. Now, my channel is not big. I don't know how far this video will reach. If you're an African player, I think you should share it around or ask other content creators to cover this. Keep on tweeting about it, because at the end of the day, they have your money. And I'm assuming because you guys are very dedicated to the game, you have bought the Kombat pack, so you have all the DLC characters. You probably invested in the microtransactions because you love Mortal Kombat. I'm not shitting on you for that. My point being is that you're doing the right thing by tweeting about it, by tagging people like me in the conversation. Tag other content creators. There are much bigger content creators out there that could potentially do something about this. Even people that are not involved in the fighting game scene. Africa is the second biggest continent. You guys have a lot of voices. You might be drowned out because you're not over here, but I'm willing to use my platform to try and help you guys. Even though I don't like this game and I don't like what they've done to it, if you guys are enjoying it, I want you guys to have a good time. Keep on tagging Ed Boon. He is active on Twitter right now. If you were going to get this guy, this is the time to do it.
I've traveled outside the country for an event, and trust me, there's a huge audience in Africa. Some play for fun, and others like me play competitively. It's a shame we all purchase the game for the same price, and some parts of the world enjoy the full benefits of their money, and others don't.
We barely got to enjoy the full benefits of the game, brother, but I hear you. You guys have gotten the worst of it. You know what's funny? Once upon a time, telling people that Pakistan was going to become the dominating force in Tekken would have been laughed at. I would have laughed at that. And look at the timeline that we are living in now. Pakistani players are basically destroying everyone. They came in and they dethroned the Korean juggernauts, and Tekken's competitive scene has never been the same again. I'm willing to bet there are some real African beasts out there that are being held back because MK1 was built with about as much love as Rey Mysterio's 1 hour title reign on Monday Night Raw when John Cena came in and took the boy out. I know you guys that watch wrestling know what I'm talking about. That shit was foul. And before anybody says anything, I'm well aware that Sweet Baby Inc.'s job is not to do what I'm saying for them to do. I know they are a consultant agency and they deal with narrative, but they have massive sway. They have massive backers, as we have seen with the amount of money they request to do things, and they have a massive influence in the industry. So the reason that I'm bringing them up is because they are one of the proponents of this whole DEI DEI stuff. And if you were going to push DEI stuff and there are black people asking for help, I think we should shine a light on that because it doesn't really make sense. I believe they have the drive and the influence to do something here, to amplify this and speak about it on Twitter. They may not be able to go into the NRS offices and actually make any changes to the game's infrastructure to help African players, but they are so well known within the industry, they have so much influence and so much money that yes, if they truly want to help black players, they can say something on Twitter and tag Ed Boon. Ed Boon may not reply to me, to you, or to other content creators, but you better be damn sure that he's going to pay attention to people like Sweet Baby Inc., Kotaku, and those sorts of people if they are tweeting out that NRS are neglecting African players. Again, I know this sounds extremely harsh, you guys might not like the approach that I'm taking with this, but sometimes when people don't want to pay you any attention, you have to kind of be like this. It's not right that they took their money, and people should let them know that.
You guys have been patiently waiting, but nothing has been said addressing our concern. Would there be servers for us in the future? Back in MK11, thing wasn't even a thing. We could literally play online with our mobile hotspots. Online events and tournaments were a lot, and we could create a lot of content and stream for our audience.
Hey, that's pretty good.
But now we can't even join online major events. We can't even play with our own peers. We have to wait hours online just to get a few games. It's quite frustrating. We are begging for a response concerning our issues. Is there a future for African gamers? This is what we'd like to know. Thank you.
NRS, say something to them, anything. This is actually quite deep, and if you ask me, this comes across like complete negligence. Why do they matter less than us when they purchase the game for the same price? It looks like African players really love MK. Why don't you extend some of that love back? They did give you their money. I know some of you watching this video are thinking, Mike's jumped at an opportunity to jump down NRS's throat. Guys, look, I'm happy that NRS is back on Twitter because even though MK1 is never going to be the game that I want it to be, my hope is that they learn from their mistakes of MK1, and when we go into MK2 or whatever they decide to call it, it will be a better game for all of us. If you look through my channel historically and my tournament history, I was very invested in MK, so I'm not jumping on this to jump down their throats. I don't really need to jump on anything to jump down NRS's throats at this point. They've made it very easy for me to make any kind of video, but this is actually a problem. These guys are suffering in Africa. They've had their money taken and they're trying to support the game despite NRS ignoring them. So we should help these players. We may not have the most resources and facilities, but someone should say something. It's not like we are doing anything unjust towards NRS by talking about this. They bought the game, you should support them. More eyes should be on this situation, and African players should get the support they deserve. Now, as I said, Ed Boon has recently been tweeting out a lot more, and there has been mention of a year 2 panel for Mortal Kombat 1. This is all really good, and I'm glad to see that. I'm glad to see they're taking on feedback and wanting to support the game for many years to come. But if that's the case, then support your entire player base, not just the ones on your doorstep or your neighbors. Otherwise, don't sell the game to them. I shouldn't have to tell a studio that supports the DEI stuff to help black gamers out. That makes no sense, but here we are. If there are any African players from any parts of Africa that see this video, share it around and amplify your voices. Get other content creators to raise awareness. Hell, get a spokesman from your scene and I'd be more than happy to host you on this channel. We can have a discussion about what you guys have experienced since MK1's release. The floor will be yours. I'll ask you a few questions, but you can basically say whatever you want and we'll try to get that video out to as many people as possible. You can't sell a game at full price to people and then ignore them. Unacceptable and shambolic on all levels. As a matter of fact, you probably could get away with that back in the day because there wasn't online stores and updates and changes to the game where people have to purchase them. But you're asking for money from people and then not providing them with a good service. If you released the game to African players and said, look, you guys can only play this offline because we don't have the resources or facilities to host proper servers for Africa, no problem. Would have been a little bit shitty, but fine. But no, you didn't do that. You released the game with all of the features intact, just some of them not working. Hopefully, if you guys get the support you deserve, one day you can have your own tours, successful online tournaments, and maybe come out to EVO and show the world the African playing style in Mortal Kombat. It would be so cool to see that because A, it's an organic and authentic story. It's something that nobody would expect. And B, it would just mirror the underdog story that we saw with Pakistani players many years ago on Tekken. And now look at how far they've come. Someone might need to call up Core Gaming for another documentary. So I really hope NRS sees this. I hope other content creators talk about it, although nobody has to do anything. I'm not compelling people to do stuff, but I think it would be good to get these guys some help because it is a little bit shit that they've just been hung out to dry. And as I said, if you are an African player out there and you're one of the more well-known players or somebody that can reach people, I'm more than happy to host you. Reach out to me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is in the video outro, but if not me, try to get somebody else. I'm on your guys' side, and like the last video, as I said, we will continue covering this and seeing where it goes. goes. Anyways, guys, take care of yourselves. Have a good day and peace.